Hey, everybody, welcome back to Build Better. I'm Matt, and if you live in the Midwest or anywhere near me, welcome back to winter. Last week we got a little fake out of a couple days where it was in the 50s. We almost touched 60, and this weekend and this coming week have proven to us that it was all a bunch of bullshit. We're back into the 30s. We're getting snow as we speak, and it's a general state of suckiness. Regardless of all that, today we're not talking about the weather. Today we're going to talk about growth. So last episode we talked about scaling your people and what that entails and what comes with all of that. But today we're going to just kind of touch on the reason that we need to do that in the first place, and that is growth of the business. So I mentioned last week, growth is sexy. It is. Everybody loves revenue numbers rising. Everybody loves profit numbers rising. That's the entrepreneur's dream, right? Is let's keep this thing growing and growing and growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. I fully believe that. Everyone says they want growth. Everyone says they want more revenue. They want more opportunity. They want to be on a bigger stage. But there's a reality that comes with this sort of thing too, guys, and that's growth isn't a reward. Okay. You have to remember that growth is actually a test. And if you don't approach it in that manner, growth can actually be really, really bad for for your business, bad for your mental health, bad for your physical health, bad for your team. So we're just going to kind of run through today some of my thoughts and ideas on business growth, and I'm going to tie them into a couple things, and we're going to just see where this leads us. So real quick, I want to mention we hit 50 downloads this weekend. So I'm recording this on Sunday. As of Saturday, the 21st, we hit 50 downloads. Didn't know that was a thing, but Spotify sent me a little notification, so that was kind of cool. The reality here is 50 isn't shit. I'm not doing this to go viral. I'm not doing this for the downloads. I'm not doing this for the flash or any of that bullshit. But I do want to thank those people who are listening, who've been listening and continue to. It means a lot. It means a lot to me, and hopefully eventually it means a lot to the industry, because the more people that listen, the more people that engage, the better we can do as a group. The more productive efforts we can stuff into the construction space, and we can all build better because of that. So again, while it's not like a big hoo-ha, we're not throwing any fucking parties for 50 downloads. I am saying thank you. It has been earned by myself and by all of you. And growth in any fashion, it starts small. You never start at the top. And actually, I can't remember who said it, so don't quote me, but I think it was an Olympic wrestling coach a long time ago, but you can look it up. But the quote he said is, the only place you start on the top is digging a hole. That has kind of stuck with me for most of my professional career, certainly rather, as I've been an entrepreneur, and that you got to start at the bottom. You got to start in the dirt. This mirrors the construction industry pretty good. And in most cases, to really, really succeed in this industry, you've got to know it inside and out. You've got to know all the nuances, all of the bits and pieces. And how do you do that? You do that by literally starting in the dirt, starting at the bottom, being the kid on the job site carrying lumber around, being the kid who's told rather, get in the trench and clean that out. We're pouring concrete for foundations today. Go clean up the garbage. Go move this from here to there. Do whatever the hell it entails. It's not the only way to succeed in this industry, but it certainly is the only way, I think, to truly give you the benefit of really seeing every aspect. So that's my piece on how to start your career in construction. That's not today's episode, though. Today is about growth, and it starts small, and it builds, and it builds, and it builds, and the pressure comes along with it, and it happens pretty quietly, to be honest with you. So on a personal level, I haven't brought it up on the show yet, but those of you who know me know that I've been coaching my youngest son's basketball team this year, this season, which is pretty friggin' cool. I love basketball. It's my favorite sport to watch. It's my favorite sport to play now that I'm an old ass man. It's certainly my favorite sport to coach. It's fun to me because it's fast, right? It doesn't matter what level you're at. And I don't watch much or any NBA, but I do love college basketball before they bastardize it completely with NIL deals, but that's another story. But it's fast, right? You can watch an entire game in a matter of an hour and a half, 2 hours tops, and you don't feel like you've blown your entire day. The action never stops. It is back and forth, up and down the court. There's not a lot of sitting and standing around. And to me, that kind of mirrors what we do in the construction space, right? There's not much sitting around. It is always go, especially when you're running a business or when you're in the leadership of a business or when you're running a job site. There's never a lot of time to just sit around and contemplate, right? It's not like you're watching a NFL football game where in a 4-hour stretch of time, there's 12 minutes of actual play that happens. Think about that for a minute. In the construction space, just like in basketball, it's nonstop, go, go, go. And so that might be why I like it. Maybe I'm just competitive. I find that basketball, and you can argue with me all you want, I think that basketball is one of the more competitive sports out there because of the pace of it, because of the ability to come back from seemingly disastrous consequences and win a game. So I've been coaching my son's team. It's actually been a really cool personal experience for me. Yes, because I got to coach my youngest son, but also because I got to do it alongside my older two sons. They signed up as my assistant coaches. So it's been kind of an all around kind of cool veteran family thing for me anyways, hopefully for them too. So we had our last regular season game yesterday, Saturday, 21st. And I'll be honest with you, we didn't finish off the season how I wanted to. Now we finished off okay. We won our game Saturday, which was awesome. We really came together as a team, and the boys kicked some serious ass, which was good. From a record standpoint, we ended up 4-4, right in the fucking middle of mediocrity, isn't it? That is not where I like to live. I want to be 100-0. I want to win. I want to crush our opponents, and I'll take the heat as the leader of this basketball team. Obviously, I was doing something wrong, either something in my coaching, something in my mindset that I was working on with the boys. Who knows? Yes, it's rec league basketball. Yes, we play one game a week. We get 1-2 hour practice a week. So there's a lot to be said for it, right? There's only so much you can do with a gang of rowdy kids for 2 hours a week. But the reality is, we didn't grow and succeed as I wanted to. We didn't get good enough to really scare the shit out of everybody else on a competition level. We didn't get good enough to say relax. Okay, there's one team who I don't know how they finished yesterday, but going into yesterday, they only had one loss. That's a team that you got to be careful if you're on that team, because it's really easy to just say, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're already going to win this thing. But regardless, we never had that opportunity in our team. Now, coming into next week, Saturday, the 28th, as it is, it's the end of season tournament. Again, this is rec league, so don't get too excited. It's not televised, doesn't drag on for 3 or 4 weeks like March Madness does. It's a one-day deal, and it is a single elimination. So we should get our seeding, our slotting tonight at some point when the commissioner of the league gets that all figured out. We'll see when we play first. My guess is we'll be one of the first 2 games, and by God, we got to come out swinging, because if we lose, we're out and we go home, and that's the end. Best case scenario, if we win the whole tournament, I think we play 3 games in total on Saturday, which that'll be an interesting thing to see too. That'll be some serious growth we get to watch, because 3 games with these boys of this age, that's a lot. So anyways, that's kind of what I've been doing. That's growth on that side. But it reminds me very much of growth in the business, right? And so while a bunch of 11 and 12-year-olds running around playing basketball is not akin necessarily to a gang of, anyone from 20 to 60-year-olds in an office setting fighting for market share and fighting for construction contracts and fighting to build amazing product. It is similar in the sense that you can't have any sloppy communication, top to bottom. You have to be a group that can handle growth in this world. You have to be very effective at communicating. You have to be very effective in everything you do. You can't have the guys out in the field not in tune with the guys in the office or the people in the office. You can't have the vice versa of that. It has to be a real living and breathing organism, because average will survive the regular season, right? Whether your season's basketball or construction, you don't really see growth. You don't really see that power of pressure until you get to the elimination games. And in the real world, elimination games are pretty significant consequences, right? If you don't win a contract, or if you do win a contract and you fuck it up, or, there's a million different similes or metaphors rather you could throw at this, but the idea is that pressure exposes everything. Okay. And in tournament play, in sports, your conditioning will show. I will see on Saturday if we are blessed enough to go on to 2 or maybe even all 3 games. I'm going to see, and everyone in that gym is going to see how well conditioned we are as a team. How long can we keep up that sprint? How long can we keep playing to the top, to the best of our ability? Discipline will show drastically, and leadership will show also. And that's no different than in business. Conditioning is a little different. You can be an absolute fat ass and still succeed in the construction space. But when you're talking about the conditioning side, it's mental conditioning. It's the ability to do the reps, to put in the time building estimates, to put in the time doing presentations, to put in the time reviewing contracts and documents, to all the way through the whole project, right? The project managers need to get very well attuned and put in their reps at reviewing specs and reviewing submittals to keep the architects out of the picture as much as possible. You have to be disciplined in all of these ventures too. You can't go at everything like a damn cowboy. And I can say this from personal experience. I've tried it. I've done it. Sometimes I've succeeded, and a lot of times I have failed, because I've tend to just put my head down and I run through as many walls as I can sometimes until I hit the one where I can't make it through and I get stopped. And that's when the shit falls apart, at least temporarily. So you have to be very well disciplined. And then obviously on top of all of this, one of the main themes of this show of Build Better is leadership. You cannot get sloppy in your leadership at all. And this doesn't matter if it's on the basketball court or in the boardroom. As a leader, you better keep your shit together. You better keep your composure. You better be better prepared than anybody else in the room, than anybody else on the court, because it is your job to guide and to show your team exactly where you need them to go, exactly where we all need to go together to get the goal we're looking for, whether that's a W on the court, on the scoreboard, or it's a W in a project, or by getting a project, by securing a contract. When you have any sort of weakness, it'll be exposed. Growth will expose a lot of things. It'll expose weak systems. It'll expose weak communication. It'll expose weak standards. It'll expose that weak leadership. And when you're under the gun, when the pressure starts building and the real stress test comes about, and everybody is pushed to their very limits, that's when you see where you suck as a team. You can take this as a good growth opportunity, and you should, if and when, because it will happen, when you start seeing these things, these attributes of your team that just aren't cutting it, that aren't making the grade. You should take note of these things, and then when the time is appropriate, come up with a plan, devise a real strategy to go back to basics and figure out what needs to be done so that you can overcome these downfalls, and that the next time you play in this game, the next time you're on the court, or the next time you're in the boardroom or in the field, hopefully these things don't show up again, and you'll do it again, and the natural cycle will iterate, and you'll find something new that, oh shit, okay, we need to fix and work on this, and this. And then you do the same thing over again. It's kind of like a OODA loop, if you know what that is. Not getting into it today, but you can look it up. You're constantly in a cycle of spotting the imperfections and working hard to fix them, to increase skills, to increase ability, and to get yourself and your team as damn close to perfect as you possibly can, knowing you'll never get there. But part of the fun in business, as in sport, is the constant pursuit of perfection, knowing you'll never get it. But the pursuit is really where the growth happens. the internal growth. So this pressure that you're going through, it creates cracks by revealing all of these things. It doesn't break strong teams. The strong teams are the ones that understand there's going to be things that show up that we're not good at. There's going to be things we're going to fail at. There's going to be oops moments. There's going to be oh shits and oh fucks and what just happened. The strong teams will recover. The strong teams will band back together and figure out how to prevent whatever it was from happening again. The weak ones will be identified too. And those are the teams in sport and in business that'll fall apart. Those are the teams that eventually will just go away. They'll fade off into the ether. And that's just the reality of it. So growth also comes with some pretty significant costs. People don't like to talk about this. Excuse me, I'm still getting over my my cold, so I had to take a water break there. Some of the costs that growth brings along with it are things like comfort, margin for error, sleep, simplicity, and ego. All of these things you're going to be paying for this growth that you say you want. Nothing about growth in any fashion, whether on the court or in a business, is comfortable. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but if you want to succeed in this life, you better be really, really comfortable being really, really uncomfortable. That is the only way to succeed and survive and to continue to exceed goals and expectations. Your margin for error, I mean, come on. When you're pushing the limits, when you're talking about major dollar contracts, when you're talking about, major 12-year-old basketball games, your margin for error shrinks. There is less and less acceptable room for error, which means that you have better done well in your practice. You have better done well at these continual iterations and loops of performance checking and performance enhancing, because there's the higher and higher you grow, the bigger you grow rather, the smaller and smaller that margin for error becomes. Sleep, simplicity, ego, these are all things you have to pay. These are all taxes. Hopefully you get to a point where you can level off and you're not losing health over any of these things, because that's a different problem in and of itself. But you better be willing to lose some of these comforts, at least in the short term, while you're in the growth stage in business. Growth forces a lot of things also. It forces hard conversations. It forces faster decisions. It forces higher standards. It forces accountability at truly every level. Hard conversations, you know what, man, I gave up really caring about hard conversations many years ago, because as a leader in the construction space, if you can't have hard conversations, and I'm going to say leader in any space and in any fashion, if you're not able to have hard conversations with your people, with your team, with other teams, with clients, with anybody, you're not going to make it very far. There's all sorts of things that come up that if you dance around the topic and you get butterflies in your stomach and you don't want to address it, or you get passive aggressive, all that happens, all that results from that is the bullshit that no one respects. I'm not willing to do that. So rip the Band-Aid off, have the fucking conversation. If you hurt some feelings, it is what it is. I told one of my players on Saturday, He's a great kid. He's a bigger kid. He's a football player. He's learned and he's really improved a ton this season. He's a force to be reckoned with on defense. Well, obviously one of the things I have been working with these guys on for the whole season is just get your damn hands up. Get as big as you can, but you can't reach, right? This is basketball. This isn't football. You can't wrap your arms around somebody. Well, Saturday, I'm not going to name him, but this little dude goes running out to block a 3-point shot attempt from the other team. He's got his hands up big, and he gets running like a fucking freight train, and the kid just couldn't stop. And I'm on the sidelines, right up against the out of bounds line watching, and his eyes get all big, and you can tell he's having that oh shit moment, and he just plowed this kid. This kid on their team went flying. He was fine. He got up and he dusted himself off, and he was fine. But it's funny to watch because you have to make these tough decisions. You have to make them fast. You have to live by higher standards, and that's what my little guy did, right? He knew he had to block the shot at all costs, but then he got to a point where he was having the oh shit moment because he couldn't physically stop himself. So obviously he got a foul called on him, and we moved on. I talked to him at the next break and just said, listen, I'm not upset about that at all. And he said, well, why, coach? I got a foul. And I said, man, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, right? And he kind of started laughing, and then he finally got it. And I said, this is what you do. There is acceptable risk. There are conversations and things that have to be decided very quickly, that all bits and pieces of it are not always going to be great. They're not always going to be the best thing for you or for the team. But if it leads eventually to a better spot, it's a win in my book. You don't grow into comfort either. Okay. You grow into responsibility. What this means is that you have to recognize, as you're maturing in business, as you're maturing on the court, you take on more and more responsibility. And that's the portion of this that you can control. That's the portion of this that you can affect real change with yourself and with the people that are around you. But you don't grow comfortable. You start growing comfortable again, and you start slipping into mediocrity, and it's all over. There's this illusion of control that sometimes happens, and it happens because the bigger the stage gets, the bigger the ego gets too. But in reality, the bigger the stage gets, the less control you actually have. You can control preparation, you can control standards, you can control your effort, but there's way more things and forces that you can't control. I can't control the bracket that we get put in for the tournament on Saturday. I can't control the refs. I can control how prepared my team is. And the same thing goes in the construction company. I can't control the market. I can't control how prepared everybody is on the morning of a presentation. I can control the preparation that goes into it. I can control where our skill levels should be going into it. But you have to recognize that as much as you want to prepare, as much as you think you've got this thing figured out, there are forces at play that you just don't have. You don't have the puppet strings on. And you had to be willing to recognize that and fight through it regardless. So as we're kind of winding down the show, I know I've been a bit all over the place today, and it is what it is sometimes. Momentum and elevation are things that they're aspects of business and of sport that are great. If you develop momentum, what's the hardest thing to do then? The hardest thing to do after developing momentum is to keep it. But if you can keep your momentum, you can keep elevating and you keep growing. So, if we're looking at things like this podcast, 50 downloads is surely not dominance in any market sector whatsoever. And in years past, I probably would never have even mentioned the fact that, we hit 50 downloads. But the reality is, it's proof of consistency. This is episode number 4. It means there's a handful of people actually listening to this shit. And it means that I'm still putting out content. if we're talking about growth in the company. Last week I talked about how we're actively recruiting a decent amount of people to the team. So we're adding interviews to the mix. We're raising our level. We're elevating the room, right? A rising tide raises all ships, and that's what we're doing. So when momentum starts, you can't celebrate. You can't get all head sure and all full of yourself, because that's when you'll lose it. But what you can do is sharpen. And when momentum starts and you start sharpening and you start controlling your attitude, controlling your emotions, and letting your team see this, that's when real magic starts to happen. So we're going to end today. We're going to end this show right away here. What do you do when you finish dead ass in the middle? Doesn't matter if it's sport or if it's in business. Does it make you feel good? It doesn't make me feel good. I feel like we left a lot on the table. Now, on the sports side, these are 12-year-old kids. I'm not going to grind the shit out of them because that would be inappropriate. However, as a coach, I do feel like we should have done better. We got this tournament coming up on Saturday. We'll see how we go, and we'll keep moving. The 50 downloads for the podcast, yippee. What does that mean? Not much, but we're going to keep growing. We're going to start adding interview shows, which, as I say that to myself, I reminded myself, if you're interested at all in coming on the show with me, it'll be a much more engaging conversation than just me talking to myself and Michael Jordan here. So reach out to me, shoot me a DM on LinkedIn, or give me a call if you know me better, and we'll set up a time. We can either bring you in here into the studio, we've got all the equipment, or we can do it over Zoom. Pretty painless for the most part, but I think it'll continue to help us get this momentum that we've started and keep it going. Because growth is exciting, right? Growth is exciting until it stops. So my goal for the basketball team, for the podcast, for the business is to never stop. We will never stop growing as long as I'm allowed and able to continue this path that we're charting. We're not afraid of pressure. It's not that it's coming. It's already here. It's here in our business. It's here in our leadership. It's here in my life. And that's just this part of this. So ask yourself this as you go into this weekend up ahead, while I'm sure on Saturday you'll be thinking at home, wondering just how my basketball team of 12-year-old monsters are competing in the tournament. Just kidding. Ask yourself this. Are you built for elimination games? And seriously think about that. Are your standards high enough to go into a one loss and you're dead type situation? And is your team sharp enough? Can they handle the pressure that you're about to put them under? Can they handle the reality that is about to be placed in front of them, whether that's on the basketball court or more likely in the boardroom or on the project site, in the office trailer? Are they sharp enough to make this work? Are they capable enough to actually succeed and to meet the goals that you hope they can? And then ask yourself those same questions. Are you able to meet these goals? Are you sharp enough? Can you succeed? Those are questions we should all be asking ourselves on a very regular basis. I think the more we do that, the better we get, the more in tune with our team we get, and the better the reality and the likelihood of us winning becomes. So that's all I got for today, guys. Go out and win something. I'd love to hear about your wins. Drop something in the comments. Again, thank you for those of you who have downloaded the shows, who are listening. Shameless ask here. If you get any value from this, if you find it even remotely enjoyable to listen to, please give us a share, spread it around. It'll help us go from 50 downloads to 100, and from 100 to who the hell knows. That's all I got, guys. If you want to be on an interview, reach out. Until next time, we'll see you.